So just to introduce myself real quickly, I'm Agnes and I'm the logistics director here at LEAP, and I'm going to be your host for part two. So we're going to get into part two of the webinar, which is Brock University. So pretty much know who LEAP is at this point, but our mission really is just to equip students with the skills, knowledge, and connections to really bridge the gap between high school and university and post-secondary. So yeah, we're going to start by introducing our Brock panelists. So Aditya, you can begin.
Hi everybody, my name is Aditya. You guys can call me Addy, it's much easier. I'm a second year biochemistry major with a minor in philosophy. I'm currently in my second year and I'm holding various positions such as the math and science representative for the Brock Student Council. I'm also the finance officer for my fraternity chapter at Brock. And I'm also in a bunch of other clubs, ethnic clubs such as the Tamil Student Association and also the Indian Student Association.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Addy. Bilal, you can go next. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bilal. I'm really excited to be part of this panel with some of my former colleagues, as well as some really good friends. As you may be able to see on the slide, I was a transfer student to Brock University from Mohawk College. I studied accounting at both Mohawk College as well as Brock University. So if there's any transfer students on the panel, on the call right now, I can definitely answer any questions or provide that perspective. In addition to my studies at Brock, since my first year, I was involved with a lot of clubs and initiatives since my first year. And in the last couple of years, I worked full time at Brock University Students Union, BUSU, first as a vice president finance and administration, and in my second year as the president of the student association. And through those experiences, I obviously served on the board of trustees at Brock University as well as the Brock University Senate. And I look forward to chatting with you folks this evening.
Awesome, thank you all. Really stacked. So moving on, we have Daniel. Welcome back, Daniel.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Krochuk. I'm entering my second year of the medical sciences program at Brock University. I was actually on the impacts of COVID-19 panel just a couple minutes ago, so I'm all chatted up and I'm ready to go. A couple of the things that I'm involved with are the Leadership Society, the Students Union, which is I am a part of with Bilal, Aditya, and Nivedita. So I'm also into Brock sports. So I was on the curling team and I'm involved in Med Plus. So that might be something people are in and would need to ask some questions about. So I hope that I'm able to answer your questions tonight and impart some wisdom.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. And last but not least, we have Nivi.
Hi everyone, my name is Nivedita, but I invite you to call me Nivi. It's a lot less intimidating. I just recently graduated in June from the Honors Business Communication program at Brock, and I've absolutely loved my 4 years in St. Catharines and at Brock University. As you can see, there's a lot of words on my slide, so I've done a lot of things, and I hope to kind of channel those experiences as we talk about what Brock is like today. But the one thing that I would like to highlight is I was extensively involved, just like my other colleagues on this panel, during my time at university. And one of my most memorable memories is when I served full-time as the Vice President External Affairs of the Brock University Students Union. And so the reason why I think that's one of the most important experiences for me is it was kind of real life work experience. And I think that's why we all go to university. And that's why we're all here today. How is it that we can get to something which becomes a career for us? So I am excited to share a little bit more about what those experiences were like for myself, as well as what you can do to kind of do similar things or follow the things that you were passionate about.
Awesome. Thank you, Nivi. That was great. So going into our panel discussion. So just to start off, why did you choose Brock? And we'll start with Nivi because you just ended. We'll start with Nivi.
When I was choosing somewhere to go for post-secondary, I think it was really important for me to think about what community meant. And for me, especially, I was the first ever person who went to school internationally. So I am an international student. And so I wanted to be in a place that was welcoming, that wasn't too big or that wasn't too small. And Brock is a mid-sized institution. So it has approximately 18,000 to 19,000 individuals who attend the school. And it was the perfect size for someone like me to come in, feel like home, as well as feel like I was in a city of sorts. Another major reason why I was so keen on choosing Brock is because of the community factor. Everybody is extremely engaged, extremely involved. And, you can see a little bit of that as I've graduated and I still, want to come back and kind of let you all know what the community is like and how people are so supportive and encouraging of one another. And I think those are the two kind of main reasons as to why I chose Brock. And I'm very happy that that's why I did.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds like it was a great experience for you. Addie, would you like to add on as well?
Yeah, definitely. One of the reasons I chose Brock was because I don't know if you know, but Nivi's my sister, right? So when she was in Brock, like I would go and visit her and I would be like, this seems like a cool place to be. And then over the years, I just kept visiting and I just felt more and more like home. So by the time like I was ready to make a decision, like, it's Brock, right? Nothing else. But also I had a co-op program for my major, which I didn't get like in any other university. So I really took advantage of that. And yeah, it worked out great.
Yeah, no, for sure. Co-op is definitely a really good factor for sure. Bilal, would you like to go next?
So obviously, in addition to all the great things about Brock that Nivi and Eddie have mentioned, for me it was a little bit different because I was a mature student. I was a transfer student. So for me, it was a lot about which university or which school was going to give me the most number of transfer credits, and then Brock was one of those schools. It was also not very far from home either, so that was a second factor. And thirdly, as Nivi and Eddie have mentioned, I had heard a lot of great things about Brock and the community and all those sorts of things too. And if I was to go back and start all over again, I would go back.
Awesome. Yeah, no, honestly, I love that. I love that. Lastly, Daniel, go ahead.
I think this is a great question because it leads into why we thought that our decision was the right decision. I initially wasn't planning on going to Brock. I had applied to University of Toronto and was hoping to go there. But in the end, I decided to go to Brock, and I would never change that decision. Like first year, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say that, oh, Brock was exactly what I wanted to do. I've planned it out my whole life. I'm from Niagara, so it's not like I'm gonna go to Brock kind of thing. So honestly, experiencing Brock really changed my perspective of what Brock is and how amazing of a school it is. Brock, as Nivi said, it's a great community. Like you're going to Brock and it's not, you recognize faces because it's not a giant school, but also there's a lot of students going there. So it's a great experience going to Brock. I haven't experienced other universities, but I wouldn't change my decision.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. So moving on. So what are some common mistakes that people make in their first year, and just like maybe it provides some, like, what would you tell yourself, your first year self, and what you might have changed? We can start with Nivi.
Awesome. So I think the first thing that I would recommend anybody to do is find more ways to get involved and get engaged. And I know that's a little bit tricky with everything that's going on right now, but I think the previous panelists sort of talked about the ways that you can get involved and get engaged with group chats and with professors. But I think it's really important to emphasize that you should try to meet as many people as you can, and not just for the sake of networking or trying to get on the good side of your professors, but because these are connections that are going to last you a lifetime if you're able to maintain them well. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that you never really know when you're going to meet someone next, or what they can do for you or what you can do for them. And I think a lot of the people I met in my first year are the people who have really helped me grow as a person, who've helped me explore new opportunities, help me get better and grow. And I think that's really key when you're picking somewhere to live for 4 years, 4 or 5 years or beyond. The second thing that I would do is really focus on my physical health. I was the type of person, as you could have seen a little bit from my bio, who wanted to do everything. You know, I wanted to be a part of every club. I wanted to go to every conference. And while that is amazing, you still need to prioritize your physical health. You need to ensure that you're eating properly. You know, for a lot of us, I think this is the first time we're staying away from home. And if your mom's not around to tell you what to eat, you're going to eat pizza every day if that's an option that you have. So focusing on keeping a clean diet, making sure you're getting enough sleep, that you're hydrating, and that you're having a well-balanced life, I think is something that people don't really understand. And, you know, a lot of people, including myself, when I went into first year, it was so overwhelming to just see how many things I could do. But definitely keeping yourself in check physically and mentally is extremely important.
Those are some really good points. Yeah, very solid advice, Nivi. Next up, we'll have Bilal speak on this.
So I was thinking a little bit about this earlier today, and I think my advice on this matter will be that, you know, don't think you have to graduate from the program that you got into at university. So it's because towards the end of my term, I got to meet you know, quite a few transfer students from other universities, and I got to meet some students who had changed their programs after first year or second year. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. So I think a lot of the new students don't know that, or they don't have that mindset. So I think coming into university and knowing that, you know, part of the challenge or part of the experience is to sort of really explore and meet new people and learn new things. And if there is another program or if there is another degree that that interests you more, you know, feel free to have enough sort of courage or freedom to make that change early on in your university career, because I've also met some other students, unfortunately, who didn't enjoy their programs as much in their first or second year, but you know, due to some pressures, they were like, you know, we're going to stick with this program and finish it and then start a new degree all over again. And from my experience, what I've found is most universities across the board are pretty flexible in terms of making such changes, you know, mid-year, particularly if it's in the same faculty.
Mm-hmm.
So I really encourage everyone to, you know, be open-minded and have that flexibility. You know, if you're going into marketing, but in your first or second year you find out that you're good at accounting, or you enjoy doing accounting more, you can make that switch.
Yeah, for sure. I really like the point that you said. Like, honestly, a lot of us going into university have no idea what we want to do. And I totally agree with you. Just keeping an open mind and just like, this is your money. So take the time to explore more about yourself and your passions. Yeah, I totally agree. Just to keep track of time, we'll move on to the next question. So how is the social life and the environment and the culture at Brock and in St. Catharines? Addie, you can go ahead.
All right, perfect. I would say it's a very inclusive and welcoming environment, especially as an international student. Like, what the thoughts I had about university just came from Western media, right? And let's be honest, it's not like the best depiction of what university actually is. So, you know, after coming here, there's like a slight culture shock, but everybody was, you know, really helpful and friendly, of course. So I really didn't have like any issues transitioning.
Awesome.
People are like surprisingly very helpful. Yeah, that was
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Addie. And Daniel, would you like to add on at all?
So I think like university in general is a much different thing that you're expecting. If you're coming from high school, you're going to be not expecting much different thing than you've experienced from high school. So you're going to be going into lecture hall. Well, I don't know about September, but it's a very big change of pace. But I think Brock is a very good university to kind of not overwhelm you with the change of pace. Like there's a lot of maybe clubs that you could join or things that are extracurricular activities and things like that, where you're going to make friends and it's going to be build your community of people that you're going to be building your social life. So it doesn't feel as much like a drastic change in your lifestyle, and it doesn't feel like you're the only person experiencing it, because there's these specified clubs and things that you're going to be able to join and have other people share in your experience.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's definitely, it was really surprising. I did not think the transition would be really hard going to university. You definitely underestimate it sometimes. So definitely having that inclusive environment is a really, really good bonus to have. I'm just gonna go on to the next question. So best parts about campus. Nivi, would you like to go ahead?
For sure, and my answer is definitely a little biased, but Brock University is, I think, one of the only university campuses in Ontario and maybe in Canada to have a licensed bar. So obviously, this is if you're 19 and over. But we have Isaac's Bar and Grill, which is a fully functional restaurant, and it turns into a bar on Thursdays, and Thursdays are kind of like Isaac's nights. What's amazing about Isaac's is that it's also a study space and a place for you to have events, have socials, have gatherings with other club members, or just, you know, sit down and eat with your friends. I think it's an extremely multi-purpose environment, and that kind of talks about the spirit. And, you know, going back when we talk about the environment of Brock and we talk about inclusivity, I think it's an amazing space where so much happens. And right from your first year, even if you cannot legally drink, obviously there's, you know, you can still eat, you can still go to events, and you can be with your friends. You could catch dinner with a professor. So I think it's kind of a full life cycle that you get to spend at Isaac's. And I think for me, that's definitely been the best part of campus.
Awesome. Thank you, Nivi. That was really helpful. I'm just going to move on to the next slide. So going on to academics, are there any specific bird courses for first years or just first year courses that you would recommend, and any notable professors? We can go with Nivi, continuing on because you have it on the slide. So.
Awesome. So my program was business communication, which meant that I had to take context credits, which were basically out of what I was studying, what was out of my primary discipline. And so I had to take courses in sciences, I had to take courses in poli-sci, you know, whatever else is under humanities. And I think what was sort of the easiest, in my opinion, obviously this is very subjective to what you're interested in and what your strengths are, but astronomy is something that a lot of students take in first year, and they even take it, you know, depending on what year they're in, if that's a credit that they need. Relatively easy, the same material every single year. And environmental sustainability, as well as earth sciences, the two codes after that are also very similar to that. Not a lot changes, the science of it remains the same. And I think those are one of the easier bird courses that I've taken, in my opinion. In terms of notable professors, again, because I was primarily in communications, Derek Foster and Peter Lester are two profs who specifically teach first year. And I think if you're specializing in either a minor in film or you are in communications further, they will be teaching you a lot more courses as well. Extremely fun, a lot of jokes, a lot of memes. And I think, you know, you have to keep students engaged. That's the only way people are really going to learn, especially the more and more we get distracted. We need something that ties us in. And I think those two profs have really kept my attention for the past 4 years. So they're definitely like the notable ones for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Nivi. Addie, would you like to add on to any of the courses that Nivi said, or professors as
Yeah,
well?
definitely. I'm not a communication student. Like I can only talk from my perspective as a science student. For my first year, like I don't think I had any challenging courses really. It was mainly like a review of what high school was. But for notable professors, I would say like if you ever take Intro to Physics, Sancho de Agostino is like one of the best profs Brock has. Like he's just very passionate about the subject, and he gets you like really involved in class too, like ask you questions. He's not afraid to call you out like if you're just sleeping on your phone. So definitely he's a great guy. And also for Intro to Philosophy, Xavier Scott, I believe is his name. Again, like, you know, like an amazing person. He's able to like break down these complex like arguments about like philosophy. At the same time, he also encourages you to have like your own opinion, and you know he sparks like a debate every time in class. Yeah, great professors.
Awesome. Thank you, Addie. I'm going to direct this question to Bilal. How was your program in terms of difficulty?
So for me personally, I didn't find it difficult at all, to be honest. I have, come across many students who do find it difficult, or accounting in general, but I liked accounting. I really enjoyed studying accounting, and I had some really good profs. So maybe all of that made it easier. But to be honest, I get that question a lot, or have gotten it, throughout my time at Brock. It is considered one of the more challenging programs, but I liked it. I had a passion for it, and I was pretty focused in terms of what I wanted to get out of it, and where I wanted to go from there after university. So a lot of all those sort of things maybe made it easier. There are some courses in the program that are a little bit difficult and challenging, but I think overall it's pretty manageable, especially if you enjoy what you're studying.
Yeah, good, very good point. Yeah, we have this question for like over the past like 6 weeks. Honestly, most people say if you're passionate about it, you're not gonna find it as like difficult and like as grueling and dreading to get through. So yeah, definitely great point, Bilal. And then I'm gonna direct this question to Daniel. Any brief advice on like the application process to Brock, or anything, any kind of tips and tricks to keep in mind?
So I think this is kind of similar for every university. Like, you want to, like, a lot of universities will base it mostly on like your grades, which is, I think everybody's probably applied already. But I think like you're going to be mostly based on your grades, and then some universities will have specific, sorry, it was such a long time ago for me, I can't think of the words, but it's like your extracurricular things that you were involved with in high school. So maybe if you're in grade 11 and you're going to be applying next year to university, you want to get a list, start putting it together of what you've done and maybe your volunteering things and how you stand out from other applicants to the university. Because if maybe you are just on the edge of the range for the students who get into the program that they're applying to, they'll look at those extracurriculars, and they'll look at who you are, and that could be the edge that gets you into the program.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that advice, Daniel. We're gonna go to the next slide. So next up on our discussion is about experiences, internships, clubs, and ECs. So just briefly explain kind of what is your involvement in the clubs, ECs, or sports during your first 2 years. Is there any recommended ECs to join as well? And we can go with Daniel since you just ended as well.
Sure, of course. So I was involved in many clubs, well, actually no clubs, but I was involved in extracurricular activities as well as sports. So I was very involved in curling in my high school, and Brock is actually one of the best universities in Ontario for curling. We have a two-part curling program, so we have the men and women's varsity teams, as well as junior varsity teams, which are like the it's kind of practice team, or like the B team. You do get to play in the same weekly league that the varsity team does. So I think it's a really great curling program at Brock, and I know all of the Brock sports are very inclusive, and we have a bunch of sports that are very competitive and do well at the Ontario provincial and national levels. So I'd really recommend getting involved in sports that you like to do or you're good at doing. If not, there's some great intramural opportunities that you can get into. So if you're not so competitive in your sport, or you don't really want to compete against other universities, you can get involved in those. On top of that, I think it's really awesome to get in. Maybe if you don't find like student government or student councils to be your sort of cup of tea, there's so many different clubs that Brock has. I think we had over 100 clubs that were registered through BUSU this year. So there's so many different things that you could do that could be the thing that you love doing, and you could find maybe your best friends doing them. So I think definitely check out the clubs, and that's going to be an amazing part of your university experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. That was really solid advice. Addie, would you like to add on to this at all?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of involvement, I know Daniel and I were actually the first year representatives for the Brock Student Council, and that was like, a fun time. We got to know how like the Students Union works and just, other workings of how events are held by the Students Union. I also, for me as an international student, again, like I think it's pretty important that I got into my ethnic clubs because, it's nice to, once in a while have like your food, presented like at a big event and whatnot. It really makes you feel closer to home, even though like you're all the way here in Canada. And one other thing I would recommend, like obviously it may not be for everybody, but is I think I recommend that you guys like try joining Greek life. I think it's underestimated, and again, like it may not be for everybody, but if it is for you, you can have like a great social circle and just keep like your social life active. It comes really helpful. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Addie. Yeah, a little represent for the Greek life there at Brock. I just a question that popped up on the chat that I thought would be good because a lot of you guys are from like the student council, right? So how did you guys come? One of them asked, how did you guys come to join the student council as first years? Like, I guess like the reason for it. Any one of you guys could go first because yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
go ahead, Addie.
for me, I was just involved like throughout high school in the student council. So I was like, why not give it a shot? Like I'm kind of used to this. I enjoy, representing students and whatnot. And then I did have the opportunity to like apply for this position where we just had to like write about, why you think you're the best fit. And there was like a whole review process, and I got picked, right? So yeah, that was pretty much it. It was pretty simple and very like transparent.
Awesome. Thank you, Addie. I'm going to ask Bilal on this question too, because you did end up becoming president of the student council as well. So just curious.
So I can speak to it from a different perspective. So we created specifically first year seats on our council, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So that was my first or second year on the council. So this was an initiative on behalf of one of the vice presidential candidates. So from my experience, I think there is some student councils that have that first year representatives. Others don't. So if you're at a school that does not have first year student representation on your council, so that's something that you can advocate for and work towards. And if your school does have that representation, then you can get involved that way. And I guess in order to answer your question, so Nivi and I, we followed a similar trajectory in terms of us becoming executives on the council. So just like Eddie and Daniel, we were involved with our sort of ethnic clubs on campus, and through that we got involved on the council, and then the year after we ran for sort of VP positions, and then in my last year I ran for the president's role, and was successful. So my journey wasn't any different than Eddie, Daniel, or Nivi. It was very similar in terms of sort of stepping out of your comfort zone and popping that sort of bubble and building confidence and meeting new people and learning new things, and you just sort of continue to expand on these things, and then opportunities come across, and you can either sort of choose to take advantage of those opportunities or let them go. And I took advantage of the opportunities that were there, and yeah, it was so
Awesome.
that sort of made my university experience just so much more memorable.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely do think like the student council, most of them will be at every single university. They have such a big presence on campus, so definitely get to a lot of connections, meet a lot of people, and from their experience, all of them joined it. So I think it's a really good choice to join. So I'm going to direct this question to Nivi. Is there any first year internships or research opportunities? I might ask Daniel as well because he's in MedSci, right? So yeah, Nivi, would you like to go ahead?
For sure. So this is completely dependent on the program that you're in and sort of what is happening that year. And by that, I mean, obviously this year things are a little different. The context of university, as we know, it has changed. But depending on what your courses are like, depending on who your professors are, your internship and research opportunities differ vastly. So in my program, for example, an internship component is present in your final year. So everything that you do for the first 3 years sort of builds up towards the internship. In a lot of other programs, and this is the sciences, you know, you have the opportunity to research with the professor or with the teaching assistant, but you have to build that connection. So there's not really a research class, for example. I'm not really taught how to research. And when we talk about research opportunities, we don't just talk about the doing aspect of research, but also the learning aspect. And I think almost every single program has a component of research that is built into it. For communications, I had specific communications research, I had media research. And I know business courses have their own type of research. And you learn research as well as you have the opportunity in some cases or the other to perform it as well. And I kind of let Daniel talk about the more science aspect of research opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks, Nivi. Go ahead, Daniel.
So Nivi kind of touched on it for me, which is I have a very limited knowledge of the internship and research opportunities for my actual program and such, but it's very based on building connections with your professors or who you want to research with for sort of research and internships with a specific professor. But I know that there are also opportunities that would be like TAing for a lab, like a lower year lab, like first years. It wouldn't be a first year opportunity. Most opportunities, I believe, are upper years. Like I don't know anybody who was in any of my science programs or any of my networks that had first year internships or research. But I think definitely connect with your professors. If there's a specific area that you're interested in, look at the professors that you're going to be having that will be teaching you those subjects and sort of try and connect with them in a way that makes you stand out from the crowd so that they'll be like check out the research and let them know that you're interested in it. Maybe ask them a question, send them an email so that they know you're interested, and then you could be a possible candidate for research.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. That was really in depth. I'm going to move on to the next part of our discussion, which is residence. So how was your residence experience like at Brock? You know, maybe provide some insight on what the best residence is at Brock, some pros and cons. We can go, Bilal, you can go first. Oh wait, you were a transfer. I forgot.
So I actually did not live on residence. So I think I'll pass it on to
Yeah. Addie, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of residence, I'm really biased when I say this, but if you're going to Village, I think that is like the best residence, like hands down, in terms of, you know, making new friends, partying as well, or like just finding study groups. That's just like the most effective like residence to be in. It's also really close to the gym and like most of my first year classes. So, you know, when I woke up for my 8 a.m.s, I didn't have to like, you know, go across campus. It was just like a 2-minute walk to the lecture halls. And even in village houses, you get your own kitchen. So if you know, you're sick of like residence food, just go ahead to the market, you know, get your own groceries and cook something for yourself. So yeah, I think village is like the best residence. Again, I'm biased, but I stick with village.
Awesome. Thank you, Addie. Would Nivi or Daniel, you could add on to that. Go ahead.
I'll quickly talk and then I'll let Daniel kind of chime in. So there's 5 types of residences that are actually on campus. So I'm not sure So Addie talked about village residence, which is sort of a townhouse, and 4 to 5 people live in this townhouse, and there's single rooms or double rooms, and there's sort of a common living area and a common kitchen as well. There's other types of residences. So we have we have a room connected to another room via a washroom. We have something that is similar to village. We have another townhouse style, which is Quarry View. So there's a lot of different options that you can pick from depending on what it is that you want. If you are not ready to live all by yourself and you want a roommate, you should prioritize a residence that is going to let you have a roommate. If you are more keen on kind of having your own space and you're more of a private person, you can go for one of the residences which have a single room. You could still be in a townhouse and have a single room. So it really, really depends on what you want out of your residence experience. When I look at my residence experience, I wanted to be around a lot of people. So I picked the dorm style residence, which is Lowenberger, and it had a single room connected to a double room via washroom. So 3 of us would share a washroom, and it was a great way to meet new people. There's multiple people on the floor, they're across different programs, and it was just a great way for me to interact with people who I would not have otherwise interacted with had I not lived on that particular residence. Lowenberger residence also has its own cafeteria in the building. So when it was winter and when it's snowing outside, I had to just walk downstairs. So I wanted that more than I wanted to be closer to my classes or to be closer to the gym. So it really depends on what it is that you are looking for. For me personally, I looked out, I got Burger, and where I met some of my friends who I will be friends with forever. So yeah, that was my residence experience at Brock.
Awesome. Thank you, Nivi. Daniel, would you like to talk about the meal plan system as well, or anything to add on to Nivi as well?
So actually I am from Niagara Falls, so I ended up staying at home, so I can't really talk about meal plan. But
Then we'll move into the next section, actually,
Okay.
if you're going in terms of, you're commuting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So would you like to provide any recommendations for commuters?
Of course. So I honestly, with Brock, you get a bus pass that you pay for throughout your tuition. So it's paid for. I don't believe you're able to opt out of it. I would recommend not opting out of it because I do drive in. Well, I did drive in every day to school, and like if I wanted to get transportation to the Penn Center or maybe to downtown to go on an outing with my friends or things like that, I use the bus pass because I don't want to find parking in downtown or park at the Penn Center with my car or waste the gas when I can use my free bus pass. So I think it's an awesome opportunity to use that. But other recommendations that I might like to mention are that not necessarily in regards to commuting. Like I can talk to you about like how meals work. Like I found that you need to schedule some time to eat when you're not on residence, because you don't have as many opportunities when you have maybe a 20-minute drive or a 30-minute drive, or maybe you're doing like a 50-minute drive, which I wouldn't recommend, because you lose a lot of time in your day doing that. If you already have a busy schedule, you're not going to want to forget to eat. So I think you need to schedule some time to eat. Great options are Isaac's. Isaac's has really good food and it's affordable. We have a full Tim Hortons on campus, which I frequented. Pretty affordable prices, I think, and we have a few great cafeteria options.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. Very Canadian of you. Tim Hortons, that's where Daniel will be. But anyways, continuing on, Bilal, would you like to talk about kind of the transportation for getting around campus? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
Absolutely, I would. I would love to talk about it, and Nivi is smiling there because I am very passionate about public transportation, and I'm a big advocate. I read about it a lot. I do a lot of research on it, and in my role as the vice president, it was a really big part of my job, and I did a lot of work in this area. And I probably won't be able to stop talking about it. So feel free to interrupt me if I keep going. But public transportation is available in Niagara through different transit providers, and at Brock we give you a sticker that gives you access to all the public transportation options available in the region, and it's no different than a lot of the other schools, including Western. Like your student association has a similar arrangement with the transit provider in London. In London, so that is something very common for student unions in Canada to provide to their students, and student unions in Ontario and in Canada do a lot of work in the area of public transportation, and a lot of the residents and local and people outside the student union world don't know this, but students and youth and through their student organizations do a lot of work in this area, whether that's providing the service or advocacy around making it more affordable and accessible. So I very much enjoyed doing that. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes it was very challenging, and then student unions across the board have similar challenges with with transit. Different places have different issues that they're dealing with, but no, but public transportation is great. It's it's affordable, especially if you don't live too far from the campus. If you live in the vicinity, I would encourage everybody to remain opted into that program and take advantage of it, and not just to get to campus and back, but to go get groceries and do other things as well.
For sure. Thank you, Bilal. Seems that I can hear the passion while you're talking. Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely. Thank you so much for that. Okay, and lastly on our discussion, we have what are some financial resources, both externally and at Brock University, whether that is like scholarships, specific awards or bursaries like that. Any of you guys could take the floor.
Start off, and then if I'm missing something, everybody can sort of follow me. So when you apply to Brock, one of the first things that you're introduced to through your portal is one app, which basically allows you to apply to all of the scholarships and the bursaries that are available for Brock University. So it has a bunch of questions about your profile, regular questions, as well as some more detailed information that is asked about your extracurricular experience and why it is that you're applying for certain awards. So I highly recommend filling out your one app and updating it every single year, because there's a lot of awards that people are eligible for, but they don't know that they can actually apply to get those awards. So I highly recommend completing your one app and updating it every couple of months as well. The other thing that I would sort of, invite everyone to kind of consider once they finish their first year is about finding a job. And while it's not something that is going to completely maybe help pay off your tuition, it's going to help you, financially become more secure starting from when you do get that job. And it is an important resource. And one of the things that I don't really think people are taught in high school is how to manage your money and how to start saving your money. And when you come to university, you realize that things are so expensive. You're paying for everything, you're paying for meals, you're doing everything on your own, and you can actually see how much money you spend, let's say in a week or a month, which is just so much more than you've previously spent. So really kind of sitting down, thinking about where your money is coming in from, whether it's a job, whether these are scholarships that you're eligible for, and where you're spending it, I think is also really, really important. So there's a lot of resources on campus that kind of help you navigate that and help you plan better, help you, have your finances in order. So I really recommend looking into those resources as well and applying for the one app.
For sure. Thank you, Nivi. Yeah, no, I have to pay my tuition soon and I'm buying furniture for my house. I feel very, very broke. So totally. Would anyone else like to add on to what Nivi said?
Sure, Angus, I can speak to that as well. So I know at least at Brock, I can't remember the specific figure, but scholarship, bursaries, and grants in general were very underutilized. And every time I would talk to students in the hallways, I would tell them about these grants, bursaries, and scholarships. And as I said, I can't remember the figure, but it was heavily underutilized. And I think one of the things that people forget or don't appreciate is that a lot of students need debt to go into university, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to graduate with a $30,000 debt out of university, which many of the students in Ontario and in Canada do. But interestingly, I actually know a couple of people personally who uh, who graduated from Brock debt free. And in my discussions with them, they didn't do anything super crazy. It was just that they applied for scholarships, bursaries, and grants, and they applied for almost everything they were eligible for. They did take OSAP as well, but at the same time they had a part-time job, and anytime they had a little bit money saved up and they had other opportunities to sort of pay back their OSAP, they did those sort of things as well. So I think if you are disciplined and if you can budget and manage your money well and apply for all these scholarships and grants and bursaries and all these sorts of things, you can graduate from university with either debt free or with a lot less debt than you would otherwise have. And I think uh, or whether our government or our universities and colleges, there's a gap, where like we don't educate our first year or second year or any of our students at all in terms of how to budget and how to manage their finances. So that contributes to that as well.
So true. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I came into first year not knowing anything, and then all my my finances were piling up, and I was like, "Wow, this is really gonna hurt." But yeah, no, thank you so much for that. And I think just in terms of time, I think we're just gonna go on to our open Q&A session. So if anyone, any of the attendees have any questions for our lovely Brock panelists, feel free to drop them into the Q&A to the chat box right now. Okay, so someone asked, for the people who didn't live on campus, how did you connect with with people and make friends? Adi, would you like to go ahead?
I think Nivi and Bilal and Daniel will do a better job because I was in residence.
Oh yeah, fair. Daniel, would you like to go ahead?
Sure, of course. So I think I mentioned this earlier in the impacts of COVID, but I think definitely check out social media groups. So there will probably be some specific to your program, maybe some specific to courses for you. I definitely check out the Class of 2024 Facebook group, Rock Class of 2024, because lots of people will post like, hey, I'm starting a group chat, send me your at on Instagram or things like that. And then if you join those group chats, it may be overwhelming because there's probably going to be a lot of people in there, like 50 or 60 or whatever the cap is. But I think you want to make some individual connections. So if you see someone that's saying something funny and you think that person could be a great person for me to spend time with, maybe just like send them a message, be like, hey, I saw you said that, it was hilarious, or like just something to make one-on-one connections. And those are the people that are probably going to be along with you for most of your university career. I Even in non-pandemic conditions, that's how I found my best friends. So I think it's really a good opportunity for you to make connections that way.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I remember you saying that for part one of the webinar. Yes. Definitely very solid advice. Next one was, when do I get my Brock card and how do I submit a photo for that? Anyone would like to answer that?
I can try answering that question. So I'm going to give you a pandemic and a non-pandemic response. So the non-pandemic response is if you are attending Smart Start over the summer, which is the summer orientation program for first years, that would ideally be where you would get your BRA card. But if not, you can just go to campus whenever it is safe to go to campus and when campus is open, and you would just go to the registrar's office and they would do it for you. But now we have a BRA card office that does it. So that's what happens when it's not the pandemic. So you go to the Brock card office or you go to the registrar's office. Because it's a pandemic, I don't really think that students are required to have a Brock card. I think if you have to go to campus for any reason at all, you can show your schedule and you can kind of show that you are enrolled, and I think that should be enough. Again, because it is the pandemic, things are not as stringent or not as serious as they were before. So even if you don't get your Brock card now or within the next couple of weeks, you should still be okay and you will still be a Brock student.
Awesome. Thank you, Nivi. If anyone would like to add on to that, go ahead, or else I'll move on to the next question. So how much time did you need to commit to the student council or the VP positions? And honestly, all of you guys can answer on that. So Addie, would you like to go first?
Yeah, definitely. So for my role as the first year representative, I think Daniel did mention in the chat earlier. So it was about like a 3-hour commitment every other week for my position. And if you wanted, like, you could help out with other events hosted by BUSU, like the Students Union. And that would be like, I'm guessing about an hour, 2 hours on like a Friday or like whatever day you're free. So that was from my position at least. I know, like, Nivi and Bilal can touch upon their exec experiences.
Yeah, go ahead. One of you guys can go.
I can go. It's so for Nivi and I, it was a little bit different because we were in our VP and my president's role. We were full-time employees of the student union. So on average, we could be anywhere from 60 to 70 hours a week because we had really busy jobs. They were paid as well, and they were full time. So our commitment looked a lot different than other students who were on the board or on the student council or were responsible for any of the clubs, because a lot of those positions are unpaid and volunteer based positions. So it's really up to you how much time sort of you want to dedicate to those activities. But if you want to work for a 4-year student association full time, whether as an executive or otherwise, the commitment looks a lot different.
Yeah, definitely. I think honestly, like for a lot of the exec positions or any of those leadership roles within campus, a lot of them will have the job descriptions and they will outline kind of your roles and just what's expected of you. So you could grasp a little kind of how much time that might be. So yeah, does anyone else want to add on to what Addie and Bilal said? If not, then I'm going to go to the next question. Someone was asking, can you recap on the co-op opportunities at Brock? So whoever had co-op, I forgot who it was. Sorry.
I haven't entered my co-op session yet, but from my experience, I know that I have to register for a co-op learning course, I would say, where you're taught about how to work, I guess, in that environment, how to prepare you for that, to transition from a studying space like a working space. And I've yet to take that course, of course, but yeah, I wouldn't know, but
No,
definitely
fair.
there are support systems in place for students to get used to transitioning from a studying period to like a working period.
Okay, fair. Thank you so much,
I can
Addie.
add a little bit more
Yeah,
to
for sure.
that.
Go ahead.
So I had the opportunity to work as a Brock ambassador, which was basically a tour guide. And this was one of the questions that we would get all the time. And the great thing about Brock, if you don't know already, is that 100% of the programs at Brock have some sort of experiential educational component attached to it. which means that regardless of what you study in the classroom, there is an opportunity for you to either do some type of field work, have a job, an internship, or some opportunity where you get to do what it is that you're actually learning. And so for me, I was in one of the programs that did not have a co-op, but was still internship based. And over 50 programs at Brock do have a co-op. So if you don't have a co-op, you do have other opportunities where you're still, you get to work, you can work off campus, you can work part-time, whatever it is that you want. But if you do have co-op, as Adi mentioned, there is a component that you take which kind of prepares you to get in the zone of going and working in an organization. There's a lot of career services that will help you prepare your resume and help you get ready for an interview. And there's a co-op office to assist you during all of this as well. One thing that I will add, and one thing that the university talks about a lot, is that just because you have a co-op, it doesn't mean you automatically have a job. You're prepared and you're being prepared to get the job. It is your responsibility at the end of the day to, practice for your interview and, work on sharpening your resume or your cover letter and your skills in general. And the co-op is just a window of an opportunity for you to be able to practice what it is that you were taught during your courses.
Awesome. Thank you, Nivi. That was very in-depth. Thank you. Just in terms of time, I think we'll do one more question. There were a lot of questions in the Q&A chat. So if any of the panelists who aren't speaking at the moment could answer them in the chat box would be awesome as well. I think one question was a very common first year question that even I had. So when should I buy textbooks, and should I get like the hard copy or online? Should I get used or new? Daniel, would you like to speak on that?
I'm probably not the best person to speak on this because I am a little bit irresponsible with my textbook purchasing. I waited until the second week, I think, of my lectures to see if the professors were actually going to be using the textbooks at all, like if there were mandatory questions or mandatory readings, because a lot of the time they'll take their slides right out of the textbook and you don't need it. It's definitely a guessing game though. Like you could have a course that you have to do questions from the textbook every week and you can't find it anywhere online. So I'd say like err on the side of caution, but if you don't want to make that extra purchase, maybe just check out the first week or the first lecture and see how much is going to be happening.
Yeah, definitely. I do think, although you can see the course outline for most classes by now, I think or you could always email the prof to get the course outline too, but usually they will say this required textbooks, but you can also reach out to upper years that I find who say whether this actually is a required textbook. I mean, universities, they love for you to spend money. So just because it is a required textbook, some people have been able to kind of get by without them, but that's definitely to your discretion. I don't want to if you guys don't do well in the class because of me, don't come at me. But yeah, just definitely, I think what Daniel said was really good. Definitely check out the class, maybe talk to upper years as well is really good. Oh yeah, and to answer where do you find course outlines, a lot of the times there will be past course outlines. So if you type in kind of the course name at the university, usually there will be past ones with whatever prof there is. And if there isn't, you can always reach out to the professor as well if you do know your prof. So yeah, in terms of time, I think that's it for everything. Obviously, I'm gonna go on. Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you to these lovely panelists who took the time out of their day to answer all your questions, as well as thank you so much to everyone who was attending for these webinars, for today's webinar as well. And if you would like to connect, with any of them and ask more questions about Brock, I know I wasn't able to answer all of them, so my apologies for that, but here are their LinkedIns. Please connect with them. I'm sure they would love to talk to you. So, and once again, this slide deck will be uploaded on our website, on LEAP's website tomorrow. So, but yeah, they would love to connect with you. And once again, if you love LEAP, if you like our webinars, we would love for you guys to be part of the team. But yeah, and these are we have 2 more webinars coming up. So I just want to thank you everyone so much for attending this webinar, and thank you to these lovely panelists as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I'll see you guys. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Angus. You did great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
very
much.
much.
No, you guys
Bye
did
everyone.
awesome.
Good luck at Brock.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you next year.